your attention to this stage here while you're enjoying your coffee. I think you are a little bit tired after the long debates and panel discussions, so you merit your coffee and some sweets. However, I would like to present to you 5 minutes for debate, a talk format hosted by Deutsche Welle Academy. Deutsche Welle Academy is the leading media development organization in Germany, and the format we opted for the Global Media Forum is during lunch break, during coffee break, 5 minutes of talk and debate at the core media issues around globalization, human rights, and media, and what is the role of media. Now with me is Dr. Hauke Hartmann from Bertelsmann Foundation. He is responsible for the Transformation Index, one of the most important indexes of transformation. It deals with corruption, it deals with the performance of state, and it deals also with freedom of expression. And the new findings of the Transformation Index will be available only in January. But today, we will have, for the first time, some details on it. Welcome to the stage. Thank you for being with us. What is, in one word, the main finding that will come out of the new Transformation Index, when you have to say it in one single word?
The quality of democratic governance is unfortunately again decreasing worldwide, especially when it comes to political participation rights and especially when it comes to freedom of expression.
What does it mean in detail?
Well, you see, for the last couple of years we have observed that defective democracies tend to be pretty stable. So that means, yes, you do have basically free and fair elections, you have a general protection of civil rights, so to speak, but no, you do not have a functioning rule of law.
What is an example of a defective state?
A defective state, unfortunately, would be southeastern European states that do have free and fair elections, no doubt about that, but rule of law is not functioning sufficiently. Also some democratic hopefuls, like in southeastern Africa, Burundi, Malawi, and other countries of that region that used to perform democratically quite well, have an erosion in rule of law, and then consequently also in political participation rights.
So that means contrary to former findings, now you find out that political participation is much decreasing in case that rule of law is absent. What is the part of media in it?
Well, media does rely on a functioning structure of a judicial system. If you look, for example, at the independence of the judicial system, if that is not guaranteed, then you cannot claim your media rights. That is one thing that is very important. Another factor is corruption, and the corruption especially by the economic sector, and often you see that the economic sector and the political spheres intertwine. If you take, for example, Ukraine, or unfortunately also Macedonia, you see countries that were democratic hopefuls, but where you see that there are corrupt structures which are infringing on the freedom of expression and on the freedom of media.
So it's not only about political influence on media, it's also about business influence on it. Is this changing in some areas or in some regions?
Well, of course, you have those regions that are straightforward authoritarian. You have North Africa and the Middle East. You have Central Asia and East Asia. Those are authoritarian systems, and there is no dissenting voice allowed. This did not change, really. What did change is that in democratic systems, you see an infringement of politico-economic interests on the media system. And for example, in the BTI, we do ask about the multitude of opinions that are allowed in a media system. And we see a monopolization of opinion happening in quite a number of countries, and therefore an infringement on the uttering of dissenting opinion.
In your observation, what is the reason for this change?
I do believe that there is a political learning process also taking part on the side of political decision makers.
And learning in a bad direction.
Learning in a bad direction. I mean, globalization and the free exchange of opinion does not only work in favor for democracies, but also may work in the opposite direction. We've seen that in Russia. President Putin and then Medvedev have been more and more clever in instrumentalizing civil society for their own purposes. So there is a political learning process in semi-democratic, semi-authoritarian systems as well.
So, and the worst thing is that the political participation of citizens is decreasing in that case. So that means there is a de-link between society and politics. Is that correct?
Absolutely so. What we can observe is that we have in some countries a very, very active civil society, but it is taking place outside of the political sphere. And that is, of course, a discouraging sign.
So a kind of parallel worlds which are not affecting each other.
The democratic quality of a political system tends not to be influenced by the activity of civil society in many places, yes.
In the preliminary talk that we had, you said that freedom of expression itself is not an indicator for participation. I was struck by that. What does that mean, that definition? That the level of freedom of expression itself is not an indicator for participation of population into political processes. Why?
And two answers to that. First of all, political participation, of course, also consists of electoral rights, assembly and organization rights, so it is not freedom of expression alone. But in addition to that, you could say that the sheer right to write or to voice your dissenting opinion is not enough if you do not have the socio-economic possibility to voice that opinion. We see in many countries that have a formidable media structure. Take India, for example. We see that still millions of people are disfranchised because they simply do not have a voice in the established media. And that, of course, is a big problem. Take Burundi. In Burundi, only in the capital, you are able at all to have newspapers which voice dissenting opinions. When you go to the countryside, you are only able to communicate news via radio, but radio is monopolized in the hands of the Burundi state. So there's a problem.
So very different environments for freedom of expression, rule of law, participation, political dialogue, and all this outcome of the findings of the Transformation Index by Bertelsmann Foundation. Dr. Hauke Hartmann was with us. Thank you very much for that clarifications, and please check it out when it is available publicly, end of this year, right?
January 2012.
January 2012, the new Bertelsmann Transformation Index. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the conference, the upcoming panels, enjoy the coffee, the sweets, and don't miss the next editions of 5 Minutes for Debate.